The NFL regular season is finished. It's over. Which means it's time, unfortunately, for my last power rankings video, at least until next year. Next season. Or the end of the playoffs. What's going on, BLV? It's Mitch here, back with another week of NFL Power Rankings. And instead of giving you an NFL Week 18 reaction video, review video, recap video, I thought might as well just put my thoughts about each team, your favorite team, into a Power Rankings video where I'm able to talk about all 32 NFL teams, give you my honest opinion about each team, including the teams that missed the playoffs, including the teams that made the playoffs, including the teams that I think will go to the Super Bowl, and including the teams that are picking first, second, and third in the NFL draft. These are how I rank every team. And it has nothing to do with if you won your division, if you made the wild card, if you even made the playoffs. I might have teams that didn't make the playoffs above teams that made the playoffs based on how they finished the season. I tried to take a look at the entire season and evaluate their record and how they finished and just how I think of them in my mind from number 32 to number 1, from number 1 to number 32. And that's how these rankings are formed. I will once again do these rankings once we finish the Super Bowl and we know who the Super Bowl champ is, and I'll do it before the offseason. But these are the final regular season rankings. Gronk, spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe for more NFL content just like this. And let me know in the live comment section or the comment section below if you agree or you disagree. Let's go. All right, let's kick it off. At number 32 with the absolute worst football team in the NFL, and there's no doubt about it, the Carolina Panthers. This team sucks. I don't know what to tell you. The Carolina Panthers are absolutely the worst team in the NFL. They are so bad that they fired their head coach. They didn't really get that much better by the end of the year. And they lost the last game of the year without scoring a single point. The Carolina Panthers finished the season in the last game of the year and didn't score a point. So now you talk about the undisputed worst team according to Vernon85, and I agree, not scoring a point, going into a draft where they should have had the first overall pick, but remember, they traded their first overall pick. This team sucks. This franchise sucks. They'll be looking for a new coach. Their supposed first overall franchise quarterback stinks. Their future is abysmal. They have no first round pick. Brian Burns is a free agent. Some of their better players are free agents. This is a tragedy of the highest order. This team has the worst future of any NFL team I can remember. They're stuck with a small quarterback who isn't making any difference. He's basically bad Kyler Murray. He is Bryce Young. He's bad Kyler Murray. I mean, this team sucks. I don't know what else to say other than they suck. I am lost for words at how much this team sucks and how bad their future is. Their owner, thank you, Tory, is an idiot. He throws his drink on fans because they said probably Duval in his face. And they didn't score a point in the last game against the Bucs. Are you kidding? They suck. Okay. Next. At number 31, the Washington Commanders. This team just kept getting worse. Like every single week, they got worse. It felt like this team never got better. It felt like at the beginning of the year, they actually kind of had some vigor, some fight, something to like about them, right? Sam Howell was getting the vibes up. People were falling in love with Sam Howell, and Eric Bieniemy's offense and Terry McLaurin and everything they were doing on that side of the ball. But then the storyline of the entire year that everyone continuously overlooked was the fact that this team was getting their quarterback sacked at a historic rate. Like, if I was Sam Howell's father, I would sue the Washington Commanders for getting this kid killed. Game after game, game after game. They played the Cowboys in the last week of the season. The Cowboys, the first little bit of the game was competitive, and then they wiped the floor with them in their home building, which, speaking of their home building is a disaster. They're never competitive at home. Their defense sucks. They had a defensive head coach who can't coach, Ron Rivera. Thank you, he is gone. Now they're looking for a new head coach. I wonder what's going to happen with Bieniemy. It doesn't feel like he's going to get a job anytime soon as a head coach. Maybe he stays as the offensive coordinator. It does feel like if Belichick is let go of the Patriots, that will be their number one guy that they want. Apparently, the owner now is enamored with Belichick. I will say that the Commanders now at least have, in my opinion, not a horrific ownership. And they at least seemingly have a plan in the front office, and they have a group of people that might be smart to point them in the right direction. Like, I don't think this team is in a terrible position. They've got a good draft pick. They've got to fix their offensive line, but they have receivers. They've got a couple defensive players you like. Maybe they need to fix a little bit on that side of the ball. But, I mean, this team isn't that far off from being competitive. But they are, for this season, a complete disaster. A terrible football team. No defense to speak of. So, at number 31, the Commanders. At number 30, your and my New England Patriots. The Patriots this year were one of the most disruptive, hard to watch, painful football teams I have ever experienced. I don't know if they're even truly awful. But what I do know is that they were probably the worst team other than maybe Carolina to watch with your eyes. Like, if you spent time watching this team, you set your life back years. This team is unwatchable. They have no entertaining aspects to them at all. Their receiving core was a disaster. Devontae Parker, still not open. Still not open. Has not been open in the 2 seasons on one play, I don't think ever. I mean, we're looking at Demario Douglas like he's the next coming of Steve Smith or something. Like, that's how desperate this fan base is of a wide receiver of any sort. Kendrick Bourne going down took half my soul out of my body. Ramondre Stevenson going down took the other half of my soul out of my body. Having to watch Adrian Lowe completely gave me a concussion 4 times over. I mean, I do not know why this team decided to play Adrian Lowe as many times as they decided to play him. I don't know why it took so long to put Michael Onwenu at tackle. I don't know what happened to Trent Brown. What is going on with that human being? I mean, Matthew Slater retiring, that just sucks. At least Dave Andrews is coming back. Matt Judon got hurt. I mean, we didn't even get to see the red sleeves this year. Christian Gonzalez, our first round pick, who honestly might have went on to win Defensive Rookie of the Year now that you look at the landscape of that award. That sucks that he didn't have an opportunity to do that. At least this team does have some talented defensive players that they can work with, like Christian Barmore, who had a breakout season, Keon White, Juwan Bentley. I thought Mac Wilson finished the season really strong. Jabril Peppers, Jonathan Jones. I mean, I like the defense a lot. I like a lot of those players. Offensively, I do think they've got a couple things. You know, I'm trying to be a downer. It is what it is. But, like, they need a quarterback. They need a receiver. They need an offensive line fix. And they need to hit the reset button. If they can do those things, I don't think it will take that long. This isn't the Carolina Panthers. But the first thing is first. You got to figure out who your coach is. You got to figure out who your GM is. And then from there, you got to figure out who your quarterback is. And then from there, hit free agency and give T. Higgins whatever the F he wants. Okay? That's what you do. At number 30, the Patriots. At number 29, the Los Angeles Chargers. Okay, this is what I've got to say about the Chargers. The brightest thing about the Chargers this season is the fact that Khalil Mack had like a career year out of absolutely nowhere. That is the best thing that happened to the Chargers all year. It wasn't Kellen Moore, who they hyped up to the moon. It certainly wasn't the worst coach in the NFL, Brandon Staley, who finally got fired this year. It certainly wasn't Justin Herbert, because this wasn't his best season. Keenan Allen still played well, of course, ageless wonder. They do have awesome uniforms, says Vernon85. Shout out to Vernon. And, I mean, like, this team, Austin Eckler washed. I washed the dishes earlier. I yelled Austin Eckler. Absolutely washed, okay? Mike Williams got hurt. That sent the team back 5 years. So next year, I do think they'll have a better head coach. I do think they'll make some moves in the offseason. I do think this team, because they have Justin Herbert, Mike Williams hopefully healthy, I think this team will be back in competition mode. I don't think they're going to be this bad with Justin Herbert if he's playing. But they need to make the right hire, whether that's Jim Harbaugh, Bill Belichick, or someone else. They need to go out there and make the right hire. And I think finding a head coach is most important. A guy that can install culture and hopefully some stability to this team. They've had I want to say this, and I don't want anyone to take it the wrong way, but the Chargers have had far too many betas as their head coach. Yes, I said it. I do not care. The Chargers have not had an alpha male as their head coach since, I don't know, Marty Schottenheimer. How long has it been, brother? Get a freaking real man at head coach. Come on. Next. At number 28, the Tennessee Titans. This team just sucks. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like, Mike Vrabel is still a very good coach, and I think the Titans would be mistaken to let him go. But this roster sucks. Like, their O-line is terrible. Derrick Henry's old. Ryan Tannehill's done. Their receiving core, D-Hop, is old. Except he still could play a little bit. The Patriots should have signed him. Fuck, man. And then you've got a defense that got hurt a lot. You let go of Kevin Byard. At least the Titans figured out they weren't very good rather early in the season, and they got rid of Kevin Byard. Like, I like the Titans. I think they're in a tough spot because they don't have a quarterback. They're in a tough position to get a quarterback. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the coach. And they've got to deal with CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and if Trevor Lawrence is going to turn this around, I don't know. But the division just all of a sudden got really difficult in the future. So that's what I worry about with Tennessee. But first things first, I would try to retain Mike Vrabel. Shout out to Ryan. Thank you so much for the super chat. He said, "Hi, bro. Do you see Justin Herbert going to the Vikings?" Ryan, don't play with me like that. Don't play with me like that. Please don't play with me like that. No, that's not going to happen if that's what you're asking. Number 27, the New York Jets. The New York Jets are a football team that pretty much unwatchable on one side of the ball for like 87% of the season. Like, the offense was an absolute disaster. Who would have thought, not me, that if you hired Hackett, your offense would suck? Jeremy, I think we knew this. You hire Hackett, who single-handedly destroyed the Denver Bronco franchise. He made John Elway never want to see the Broncos play again. And now he goes to the Jets, and he gets every quarterback there killed because the offensive line stinks. At least Breece Hall is really good. Yes, Vernon is right. They threw a Hail Mary pick six. They did bring us to a theater near you the worst quarterback I've ever seen play football, Tim Boyle. We had the Zach Wilson season for brief moments, which was entertaining. I won't lie. Garrett Wilson is really good. But they signed Alan Lazard, which was maybe the worst signing I've ever seen. And the defense is really good, but there were moments where they kind of like didn't want to play. And Aaron Rodgers got hurt on like the second play of the season, which absolutely depressed everybody. I mean, he brought out the American flag and just became a meme immediately after that. And I think Aaron Rodgers post that probably lost his mind. I don't know if he's okay in the noggin. So we have to check on Aaron Rodgers. Next year is going to be likely a major disappointment because people are going to think that this team's going to be good because of Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron Rodgers has completely lost his mind. So at number 27, I've got the Jets. At number 26, the New York Giants. This team beat the Philadelphia Eagles, who will be in the playoffs handily in the last week of the season. Apparently, Tyrod Taylor is still okay at football. I didn't know that, but I learned that this year. They still have not figured out the offensive line, which I don't know if they're ever going to. Saquon is still there and fighting hard, but still is never going to play for a good team. The defense let go of Wink Martindale. Didn't see that coming. Don't think that's honestly a great move, but we'll see how it works out. I still think Brian Daboll is a great coach. The one thing I learned about this year, going into the year, I felt like Daniel Jones might be the answer for them, and I'm not going to lie about that. But after the year, I honestly feel like Daniel Jones, they need to figure out some way, shape, or form to get a new quarterback. I don't think Daniel Jones is going to be the guy for that much longer, but he is better than what they have right now. The receiving corps still sucks. There are some things to like. I mean, Dexter Lawrence is a one-man wrecking machine. I'm intrigued to see what they do with a new defensive scheme and things of that nature, but this team does feel like they have a long way to go. I don't think they're going to be better than the Eagles or the Cowboys anytime soon. They similar kind of level playing field with the Commanders. I think they're a little bit better than the Commanders. I did like and appreciate the fight they had near the end of the year. I will say that. I thought that they played well at the end of the year, but this team is a far ways away from going back to the playoffs, which sucks because they made the playoffs last year. Next, at number 25, the Atlanta Falcons. Wow. Okay, what do I even say about this team? So they just fired their coach, Arthur Smith, who had a temper tantrum on the football field after he lost to the Saints because Jameis Winston called an audible in the huddle and said, "Hey, bud, I don't really care. I'm going to get Jamal Williams a touchdown." Shout out to Jameis, famous Jameis doing his thing. But also, shout out to Danny DeVito. Tori says DeVito was a nice story for a hot minute. But the Atlanta Falcons, they still don't know how to use Kyle Pitts. Drake London is really good at football, but they still haven't figured that out. Bijan Robinson might be the most talented running back in the NFL, not named Christian McCaffrey, but yet he had less yards than Tyler Algier. So I don't really understand that. The offensive line regressed. The quarterback, who would have thought? Not me. That Desmond Ridder sucks. I told everybody he sucks. He sucks, okay? The defense did get a little bit better with Jesse Bates coming to town and some of the additions they've made. David Onyemata had a nice season. And I did like the higher defense, but they need a new head coach. Their head coach is a spoiled little brat that is the son of a billionaire, and we learned that to be true. They need a new quarterback. So we'll find out what happens there. Atlanta actually is one of those teams that could have a bright future depending on what they do with those two things. Coach and quarterback. A lot like New England, in my opinion, actually. Next, the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos. Sean Payton can still coach. We learned that. Russell Wilson cannot still play quarterback. We also learned that. Courtland Sutton can still play wide receiver. We learned that. And the defense, they gave up 70 points in a game. That happened. People forget that happened, but that happened. And I think we also learned Jerry Jeudy, as Steve Smith put it, is just a guy. He sucks. Javonte Williams, maybe a little bit better than just a guy, but I don't know. The offensive line is a decent foundation, but they need some receivers. They need a quarterback. Defensively, they need to add, I think, a disruptor to the front seven. But the secondary's got a solid foundation there. So I'm intrigued by the Broncos in the offseason, for sure. Last week of the year, they weren't able to beat the Raiders, I don't think, again. So that's just another thing that they're not able to do. Beat the Raiders. At number 23, the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals finished off the season pretty strong. They beat the Eagles, of course, in Philadelphia, and then they followed that up by almost beating the Seahawks, but not quite being able to do that. But overall, the Cardinals were one of the more admirable teams near the end of the season. Pew, 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 pew. Gannon was able to get them to play hard near the end of the year, which was nice to see for a young head coach. Kyler Murray appears to still be good at football and still be a good athlete. Call of Duty Kyler, they call him in the hood. And I think Kyler's still going to be the guy moving forward. Trey McBride is a really good tight end. We learned that. Wide receiver core. I don't know what's going to happen with Marquise Brown. If Kyler wants him back, he'll probably get him back. But I don't know what's going to happen there. I think that Wilson can kind of play a little bit, and I like Dortch. I think he should get more opportunity. Offensive line, I think, was the story of the season. I think they were the most underrated offensive line of the year. Defense, they need a lot of help. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do in the draft. They need a lot of help on defense. But I think that they have a nice young coaching staff in Arizona. Next up, we've got the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikes had a really weird season where they obviously lost Kirk Cousins. I feel like if they had Kirk Cousins, they not only would have made the playoffs, but they would have been a decent threat in the playoffs. I also feel like the defense way outperformed expectations for about 87% of the season under Brian Flores, who proved that he's not only a great coach, but one of the best defensive coordinators in the NFL. I think Kevin O'Connell proved to everyone that he's not only a nice story as a coach, but actually a legitimate head coach in the NFL, a good play caller, and they've got lots to work with on offense. An offensive line that improved this year, 2 really good tackles. They need to improve at running back, that's for sure, and they need to improve their running game in general. But Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne, TJ Hawkinson, that is a weapon group. And I think they should bring back Cousins, improve the defense a little bit with personnel. And I think this team can be a playoff team next year. So I'm intrigued by the Vikings in the offseason. Next up, at number 21. Hold on. At number 21. Hold on. Yeah. Our number 21, you have John Madden smiling at Antonio Pierce. Antonio Pierce, absolute dog, turning around the Las Vegas and their season. The offense was not great all year, but I mean, watching this team wasn't that bad, right? You got to watch Devontae Adams. You got to watch Josh Jacobs. Jacoby Myers was a fantastic signing. And honestly, I thought that Ziegler got a really, really bad rap and a really short end of the stick. I think McDaniels deserved to be fired, but what Ziegler was able to do this offseason, bringing in Myers, bringing in Robert Spillane, bringing in some of these guys they brought in, and some of the draft picks, I actually felt like this was a really good offseason for the Raiders, and it improved their roster, at least moving forward. I also think Max Crosby is an absolute animal, and he continues to be one of my favorite players to watch. I think that the Raiders need to look for a quarterback. And this is one of those teams where I wouldn't be against signing a veteran quarterback. Given the state of the team, I wouldn't be against that. They're also in a tough position to draft one. So we'll see what they decide to do. I think O'Connell's probably a backup. They'll get rid of Jimmy G. I want to see more out of Mayer, the Notre Dame tight end. I don't think they got quite enough out of him. Hopefully he develops in year 2. The O-line is solid, although could improve a little bit. The defense had a very nice year, and this was maybe the best Raiders defense we've seen in a decade plus. So that was nice. At number 21, the Raiders. At number 20, the Jacksonville Jags. Wow. What a disappointing finish to this season Jacksonville had. They lost to the Tennessee Titans to go to the playoffs. That just speaks to the lack of heart, the lack of vigor that this team has. Now, that being said, Jacksonville has a problem, and his name is Trevor Lawrence. Yes, I said it. No one else will say it. I will say it. Trevor Lawrence is a problem. Why? Because he's good enough to think you have a starting franchise quarterback, but he's also bad enough that when you pay him, he's not going to make you right. That's the problem. Trevor Lawrence is one of those quarterbacks that looks very talented, looks really good, has the skills, but if you pay this man a contract, you are going to regret it, okay? I don't think Doug Peterson is the problem. Offensive line stinks. Offensive line absolutely stinks. They need some help, especially on the interior. I like Travis Etienne. I like Christian Kirk. Calvin Ridley was a nice pickup, proved that he could still play. Evan Ingram, still a quality tight end. Defensively, they need to improve a little bit. Do you look at different defensive coordinators? I think they need an edge rusher on the opposite side of Josh Allen. That'd be the best way to upgrade this defense. Josh Allen had a spectacular year. Not the quarterback, the edge rusher for the Jacksonville Jags, okay? Also, guys like Cisco, I thought played really well when they were in there and improved. So, Jacksonville, I'm not going to write them off for the future, but I certainly feel like Trevor Lawrence was overrated coming into the year. This team was overrated. The jump was expected. It didn't happen. At number 19, the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals finished the season strong with a nice win over the Browns. They finally beat the Browns. Maybe when they play the Browns, they should just ask the Browns to sit half their roster and then sit Joe Burrow, and then the Browns will be able to be defeated. But the Cincinnati Bengals, I think, have a bright future. They still got Joe Burrow, who's coming back from injury. I think he'll be okay. Now, they've got to figure out what are they going to do at wide receiver. Are they going to keep T. Higgins? Or are they going to move on from T. Higgins? Are they going to extend Jamar Chase? What's going to happen? How much money is he going to take? The O-line, I think, is all right. I think, actually, they improved throughout the season, as they always do. Joe Mixon can still play, but I'd like to add a running back in the draft if I'm the Bengals, just in case he falls off. Tyler Boyd, I'd maybe look to move off of if he's too much money, and in order to spend that money on my defense that really, I thought, was the underrated storyline of this year for the Bengals. I think the Bengals would have made the playoffs if Joe Burrow was fully healthy. I think the Bengals would have been a contender if Joe Burrow was fully healthy because of the offense. But the defense was very, very, very inconsistent. I think they need more depth on the defensive line. I think they need better safeties. And I really like Cam Taylor-Britt. I really still think Mike Hilton's a good football player. I like the linebacker position. I think DJ Reader's really good. Trey Hendrickson's really good. I think they've got nice pieces there, but something was off about this defense. I think safeties need to be improved, and overall depth of the defense could improve. But Bengals will certainly be back in the running next year. At number 18, the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks. I think it's time to move on from Pete Carroll. I think he needs to go. 0-4 against the Rams and the Niners speaks to the lack of preparation against those teams and the coaching disadvantage. On top of that, I think you have to consider looking at different quarterback options. I don't think Geno Smith is that bad. I think some people do. I don't. I think Geno's an average quarterback. I think this offense is underwhelming from a play calling and a scheme perspective. I think they've got a lot of talent, and this team, in terms of talent, certainly underwhelmed by not making the playoffs. They took a step back when they were expected to take a step forward. I thought they would take a step forward in being a contender this year, and they didn't. The defense added pieces like Draymond Jones, like Witherspoon, like Love, like Wagner, and they still weren't any good. That's a problem. They need to improve. Offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, head coach. The coaching let this team down, in my opinion. That is my stance on the Seahawks. They still finished above 500, I believe, but that's not good enough to not make the playoffs in this NFC with this roster. At number 17, the Chicago Bears, who finished the season strong. They lost to the Packers, but they went on a nice little run. I continue to say it because Bears fans do not believe me. Justin Fields is not the answer. I went on Bleacher Report earlier today. I said, you know what? Matt Eberflus, with what he did over the last stretch of the season with the defense, deserves to keep his job. Jalen Johnson didn't play against the Packers is a big part. They didn't look as good. But I do think Matt Eberflus deserves to keep his job. Luke Getsy deserves to keep his job. The coaching staff did a fine job over the last half of the season. Justin Fields ain't it. The O-line did improve leaps and bounds because it was awful last year, but I still feel it could use a little bit of an improvement. I think the receiving core is decent. I love the DJ Moore addition, which was by far the best move they made all offseason. That trade was great for them, but DJ Moore really improved their team. Running back position, I think, is fine. They don't really have a true starter, but I don't really think, it's great. But they need to look at quarterback with first overall. I think Caleb Williams should be the pick right now, and I think that will inspire the Bears. I think the Bears could have a good defense next year with a promising young quarterback. We'll see what Eberflus can do with a change at quarterback, and they can also continue to add to that defense. I think the future is bright in Chicago, but they need to make the right pick at first overall. At number 16, the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers, honestly, I don't think their future is that bright just because they don't have a quarterback. But that being said, they're in the playoffs. Do I think they're a playoff quality team? Not really, I'm sorry to say. But they have Mike Tomlin, and when you have Mike Tomlin, you never go below 500, so at least there's that. The defense is feisty. They make a lot of plays. TJ Watt is one of the best defensive players of all time. Cam Hayward's a Hall of Famer. Minkah Fitzpatrick is a Hall of Fame talent. They've got a lot to like on the defense. I think Porter was a nice pick for them. I think that Pickens appears to be even better than he did in his rookie season. Najee and Warren are a nice running back combination. The O-line, I think, was the biggest improvement this year, especially over the last half of the year with how they were able to run the ball. Mason Rudolph is their quarterback right now. That's not great. So they need to figure out that position. But they made the playoffs, so that's nice. That's what you wanted to do at the beginning of the year. Next, at number 15, I got the Colts. The Colts did whoop the Steelers just a couple weeks ago, so that's why I have them a little ahead. But the Colts' future is brighter than the Steelers, in my opinion, because Shane Steichen is a really good play caller. I think he proved that if he hadn't already against the Texans in that final game. I thought that his play calling throughout the entirety of the game kept the Texans' defense on their toes. I was very impressed with how they were able to run the ball against the Texans because it's hard to run a ball against the Texans. He made the right play call in that final moment on fourth down. He just didn't put the right personnel on the field. Quarterback didn't make the right throw, and running back didn't catch the damn ball, and Jonathan Taylor probably would have caught it. But to do what they did with that offense, with Gardner Minshew leading the way and only really Michael Pittman to throw to, is impressive. I'm intrigued to see what the Colts do to support Anthony Richardson. Hopefully the kid can stay healthy. The O-line drastically improved this year. Defensively, they need a lot of improvement. I would actually look at getting rid of Gus Bradley, maybe bringing in somebody like Wink Martindale to coach my defense. I would also try to get some corners in the building. That would be nice. But at number 15, the Indianapolis Colts had a nice season for themselves. Nice story this year. And shout out to Gardner Minshew, who I haven't really talked much about. Considering I'm a big Gardner Minshew fan. I always have been. I've always thought he was better than people gave him credit for. I always thought he was a premier backup quarterback, and I think he showed that this year, and hopefully people, give him some love because the guy almost got the Colts to the playoffs, and nobody thought the Colts would win this many games, so good for the Colts. At number 14, the Philadelphia Eagles. They suck. I don't know what else to say. They're playing like absolute booty cheek, and I don't know if they'll last very long in the playoffs. That being said, they had themselves a nice beginning of the year. They went on a nice tear. They beat everybody. They beat the Chiefs, who Nick Sirianni proved how arrogant of an asshole he is. We had the big Dom moment where he ate one too many sandwiches and nearly tried to fight a 49er player. And we saw the unraveling of the Eagles over the last half of the season. Too much reliance on the Jimmies and the Joes offensively. They had to turn to Matt Patricia on defense, play calling wise. Matt Patricia who single-handedly handed them a Super Bowl in 2017. What else happened? Everything happened with this team. Hurts has been hurt. A.J. Brown, Goddard, Smith, they all have been hurt at one point. The O-line, Jason Kelce might retire soon. The defense, you got old fast. The Eagles might actually need a little bit of a retooling this offseason in a way that we didn't expect coming into this year. The roster that everyone thought was so great didn't play as great as people thought. At number 13, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What a story Baker, the commercial maker, has had this year. Rebuilding his identity, his legacy, the way people think of him. Just a great character guy, a great teammate, a great leader, and he was the perfect guy to bring in by Jason Light to come in and replace Tom Brady. And for as big of a Tom Brady fan as I am, this team pretty much has had the same season as they had last year when they had Tom Brady. And I actually think the team itself has played better than the team last year. I thought last year they were very much smoke and mirrors, and I thought Tom Brady pulled off some crazy comebacks out of his rear end that made no sense. They had a lot of injuries and things like that. This year they were actually a more legitimate offense, a more legitimate team. They could actually run the ball. Getting rid of Byron Leftwich, who knew was the right move to make. I think they've got a solid, David Canales is a solid play caller, solid offensive coordinator. Not great, but solid enough. The defense, inconsistent still. Very inconsistent. I don't know what's going to happen in the future with this team, but I do think Baker bought himself another season moving forward. Mike Evans continued to prove the Hall of Famer he is. Rachaad White turned into something very nice for them, and I do think they hit on their first-round pick. They proved everybody wrong. And they won this division once again. That being said, though, I have the Saints ranking higher than them at number 12 because they beat the crap out of the Bucs a couple weeks ago, and they finished their season strong in a way that I didn't expect. They dominated their two main competitors in the division, but in Saints fashion, they didn't win the division. The Saints beat the Bucs and they beat the Falcons fairly easily. And I think Saints fans can look at that and say, hey, we should have been in the playoffs. We should have made the playoffs. We should have won the division. The only reason we didn't is because of tiebreakers. But, I mean, you guys messed it up too early. And this was certainly a little bit of a disappointing season, considering the Saints, once again, tried to push the chips into the middle of the table and say, we're going to win this division. Meanwhile, the Bucs barely spent anything on Baker Mayfield, barely even tried to go into the season with a game plan to win the division, and they still won the division. So that's depressing if you're a Saints fan. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, Cameron Jordan, Tyrann Mathieu, Derek Carr, Ryan Ramczyk, all these guys, Elvin Kamara, getting a lot older. And this team feels like it's just hanging on by a thread. I think they should move on from Dennis Allen, as good of a defensive coordinator as he is. Move on from Dennis Allen, bring in a new coaching staff, a new play caller, try to reestablish something, try to get away from the Sean Payton and Drew Brees era, try to do something different going into 2024. I think the fact that they did miss the playoffs might actually be good for the New Orleans Saints at number 12. At number 11, Jordan Love season. Jordan Love proved what I said, that I love Jordan Love. And he came through in his first season with a season that was far superior to what most believed the Packers would accomplish. Now, I picked the Packers to be the 7 seed before the season, but not many did. And this season pretty much turned out exactly how I thought it might. Love would play very well inside of a structured and well-called offense. The offensive line would do their thing. Aaron Jones, when healthy, would be explosive. A young receiving core would only get better, although I did not see some of these guys coming, like Reed and Wicks and the guys that they've brought about. Defensively, I thought they would be a bit better than they are. Joe Barry is a big issue, which makes me believe this team can only get better in the future. They could simply make a change at defensive coordinator and get better overnight. But Jordan Love, I think, is a real franchise quarterback. I really do, after his first year. And this is a better year than Aaron Rodgers had in his first season. So how about that? At number 11, the Packers. At number 10, the Houston Texans. Who would have thought the Houston Texans would make the playoffs? I mean, not me, okay? The Houston Texans, CJ Stroud, I said he should have went first. He should have went first. The Panthers were a bunch of jabronis. The Panthers can take their first pick and their small quarterback and shove it straight up their rear end. CJ Stroud proved that to everybody. Whatever that test was called, throw it in the trash can. The Houston Texans, CJ Stroud was one of the best rookie quarterbacks I've ever seen in my life. Tank Dell, phenomenal. Can't wait to watch him next year. Nico Collins, breakout season. Offensive line, shifting guys in and out, in and out, in and out. Bobby Slowick, what a hire, what a bring in by DeMeco Ryans, who was the man for the job. Former linebacker, former Pro Bowl linebacker for them, head coach. And Will Anderson was a great pick. I mean, that I was not a big fan of that. And he looks like the right guy. The defense slightly improved, although, maybe not as much as they should under a defensive head coach. But CJ Stroud's one of the stories of the season. What this kid has been able to do is spectacular, whether they win a playoff game or not. This has been an amazing season for the Houston Texans. At number 9, the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams proved me wrong. I don't know why I doubted Sean McVay. I don't know why I doubted Matthew Stafford, but I did, and many others did, so don't act like I'm not the only one. Honestly, I doubted the fact that Matthew Stafford would be able to stay upright for an entire season. I thought the guy was broken. I thought he was done. I thought he was damaged goods. I thought he had to be moved on from. I thought he was toast. And so did the Rams, by the way. They were trying to trade him this offseason, and yet Matthew Stafford said, nah, no, sir. I still got a season left. Cooper Kupp broken in half, and Puka Nacua steps up and becomes the next coming of Cooper Kupp. Who is Kyron Williams? I guess some stud at running back. Offensive line, fixed. No worries. Sean McVay. Defensively, no worries. Bunch of rookies out of nowhere, balling out. Aaron Donald still is Aaron Donald. Who would really thought? This is one of the best offenses in football entering the playoffs. The Rams have had a spectacular out-of-nowhere campaign. At number 8, the Cleveland Brownies. The Brownies. I thought they had this potential to be a top 10 team. I picked them to go to the playoffs. I think I actually had them as the number 5 seed in the playoffs. I might be mistaken there, but they were in that running, 5 or 6 seed. I think I had them as entering the playoffs this year. But I thought it would have been with Deshaun Watson. Now, I did think it was going to be because of defense. I love the Schwartz hire, Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, that addition, Dalvin Tomlinson addition, the additions they made to the defense. Loved all of those things, and you guys know that. But Joe frickin' Flacco? Who would have called that? Now, I did say that the Jets should have started Joe Flacco last year at quarterback, and there is a video. It's on YouTube. You can go find it. The Jets never should have moved on from January Joe. But January Joe has been, wow. I did not expect that. Amari Cooper continues to be a baller. David Njoku taking another step forward. They did this without Nick Chubb. I mean, that's another thing. People forget that. The tackles have been hurt. Kevin Stefanski, what a year for him. What a year. Unreal job. At number 8, the Browns. At number 7, the Miami Dolphins. They played exactly how I thought they would. Yeah, they made the playoffs. Yeah, okay. This is exactly how I thought the Dolphin season was going to go. September, they're going to dominate. December, they're going to fall off. Every single year. Why? Well, they sign players that are always hurt. And what happened? Those players get hurt. Those players got hurt. Tua's a system quarterback. The O-line is finesse, weak. They get hurt all the time. Armstead plays 8 games a year. Isaiah Wynn got hurt. Wow, I'm shocked. Defensively, Fangio did a good job. I thought they improved for a stretch of the season, but 2 injured. The Dolphins are always frauds. They are frauds. They poop themselves. They had the division locked up. I was going to be a guy proven wrong. And yet, once again, I'm proven right. Dolphins fans every year, they say you make the same video. You always say the Dolphins are overrated. And yet, they always are overrated. Frauds. Next. At number 6, the Chiefs. The Chiefs had a similar season to what I thought they would have. Maybe not as good in terms of I thought they would be a little bit better actually than they are. But relative to the rest of the AFC, I think they landed about where I thought they would. That being said, the Chiefs had a let's get back to earth sort of season. And in a way I never thought. Travis Kelce fell off the face of the earth. Taylor Swift became a huge distraction, and I never saw that coming. I'm not going to lie about that. Patrick Mahomes looked human and honestly doesn't look like the player he looked like last year. The receiving core is an utter disaster. I thought it would be bad, but I didn't think it would be this bad. I thought Andy Reid would be able to overcome it, but it appears he's missing Eric Bieniemy. And Isaiah Pacheco's a dog, but we already knew that. Defensively, we thought they would take a step forward. They have, and they're really good. I'm not too shocked by that. They pretty much lived up to expectations. This team, though, has been such a weird team. They have weird vibes. They've been very, very, very whiny. And they're really a weird watch. They're not fun to watch either. So, I don't know. They enter the playoffs as a team that, sure, they can contend. They've got the quarterback. They've got the coach. They've got the defense in a weak AFC. But I also could see them losing the first game. They're just not as good as the previous teams they've had. At number 5, the Detroit Lions. The Lions lived up to expectations and are pretty much the exact team we thought they would be. Dynamic offense, really good running game, awesome play caller, quarterback that's maybe a little underrated, that operates the system well. I thought this was actually Jared Goff's best season of his career. The offensive line is awesome, second best in football, maybe even the best by the end of the year. Amon-Ra is a fantasy stud and won me a lot of money, so thank you. Jahmyr Gibbs is a dog. We thought that. Laporta's better than I thought. I will say that, but he's a rookie, so who really knows? And The defense had their moments of improvement and actually proving me wrong, but at the end of the day, they're about the defense I expected. Maybe a little bit better than last year, but not that much. And in moments are really bad defense. So just overall, a very inconsistent unit. At number 5, the Lions are who I thought they were. And I didn't let them off the hook. I had them winning the division. They won the division. Now we'll see what they can do in the playoffs. At number 4, the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are who we thought they were. NFC champion quality. The Dallas Cowboys are a team that I thought would win the NFC East. And I got a lot of backlash for that, but they won the NFC East. They were always better than the Eagles, and they are better than the Eagles today. Now, that being said, I thought it would be with Trayvon Diggs. And I think with Trayvon Diggs, this team would be a legit threat to the 49ers. But I'm not quite sure they can overcome and beat the 49ers. Dak had one of his best seasons of his career, if not his best season of his career. He led the NFL in passing touchdowns. Can't exactly say I would have saw that coming. CeeDee Lamb is even better than I thought he was, and I thought he was good. Tony Pollard, definitely disappointed, though. I thought they'd offer more balance to the offense. Brandon Cooks was a good addition, as we expected. Stephon Gilmore was a great addition, as we expected. This D-line is awesome, as we expected. And overall, Dan Quinn's a really good coach, as we expected. We also didn't expect to miss Kellen Moore, and boy, were we right about that. So Dallas is exactly the team I thought, except I thought they would be a little bit better on defense because they'd have Trayvon Diggs. They don't have Trayvon Diggs. We'll see how they do in the playoffs. That's ultimately what their season will be judged by. At number 4. At number 3, the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills are a roller coaster of a football team. I think if they were fully healthy, they would be a Super Bowl caliber team. And I would argue that if they had Matt Milano, they had Tre'Davious White, they might be able to knock off the Ravens. Maybe they can still knock off the Ravens. But I'm not sure. Josh Allen, arguably best quarterback in football. He's right there. Once again, division on the line, 400 plus yards of total offense, led the team in passing and rushing once again. Team is still too reliant on him, though. Offensive line did improve a little bit. Defense, I think Sean McDermott turned it around. I think Sean McDermott low-key had one of his worst seasons as a coach and one of his best seasons as a coach. For about half the year, I thought he should have been fired. And then the last half of the year, I thought he was really good. They made an offensive coordinator switch that I don't know if necessarily was warranted or actually helped, but I guess it sparked the team a little bit. Stephon Diggs regressed a little bit. He's a little bit older now. James Cook proved to be a pretty good player, although he's got to catch the ball when it comes to him. But overall, the Bills are a contender in the AFC. I think they can do it thanks to Josh Allen, but they're definitely not the favorite. I will say that. At number 2, the San Francisco 49ers, who you guys could go check out my playoff predictions. You might see if I picked them to win the Super Bowl or not. But they are who we thought they were. Best team in the NFC, arguable Super Bowl potential. I picked them to win the Super Bowl before the year, and they could very well do that. They have home field in the NFC. They have the best coach in the NFL, which I think now has finally been widely accepted. I've been saying it for 3 years, 4 years maybe. And the defense is still good, although not as good as they were last year, which I guess is fair. I mean, they were the best defense in the NFL last year, and they're still good, but not great. They do have the best offense in the NFL, though, by a pretty wide margin. Brock Purdy might be even better than I thought he was. McCaffrey might be even better than I thought he was. Brandon Ayuk had his best season of his career. George Kittle is back to being the best tight end in football. And I think the O-line took some nice steps forward overall. But at number 2, the Niners can win the Super Bowl for sure. At number 1, the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens, I will say I was not right about this team to the degree that I predicted. I thought they would be very good. I thought they would be better than last year, and I thought they would be an AFC contender, and I thought Lamar could win the MVP. But I didn't think they would be the best team in the NFL in the regular season. I can't say I expected that. I thought that would be the 49ers. Lamar is arguably the best quarterback in football, and he will win the MVP. The offensive line is really good as expected. The defensive front is maybe not quite as good against the run as expected, but their pass rush was way better than I thought it would be. Mike McDonald is legit. The secondary is awesome, as expected. The receiving core improved, as expected. Zay Flowers is a baller, as expected. Mark Andrews got hurt, which I didn't think would help them. And honestly, they've gotten better since he got hurt, but I do think he'll only help if he comes back. And the run game can do it with anybody, as usual. Not as expected, but as usual. This team turned the tide in terms of their direction with re-signing Lamar and not letting him go. Good decision. Who would have thought? Re-signing an MVP was a good decision. Wow. Bringing in a new offensive coordinator that we knew they needed for like 3 or 4 years. And yeah, I mean, this team is awesome and they can win the Super Bowl. And they were the best team in the regular season. So at number 1, the Baltimore Ravens. Those are your regular season power rankings to end 2023-2024 NFL regular season. Gronk, spike the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. And let your comments be had in the comment section below. If you agree or disagree with anything, let me know. I will respond to any comments after the fact. If you said something in the live chat that you want to reiterate in the post comments, go check it out. And if you haven't checked out my playoff predictions, go do so now. It's Mitch. Peace, guys. Thanks for joining.